we interrupt our normal podcasting of Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for this special report on draconian-style care of our most vulnerable population, long-term care facilities. What makes this breaking news is our most prized generation, our Korean War and Vietnam veterans, soldiers home in Holyoke, Massachusetts. The story on MSN reads as follows. Nearly 70 residents sickened with the coronavirus did not survive the valley of the shadow of death. All 69 of them from the list have died at the Holyoke Soldiers Home in Holyoke, Massachusetts, a home for aging veterans, as state and federal officials try to figure out what went wrong in the deadliest known outbreak at a long-term care facility in the U.S. While the death toll at the state-run Holyoke Soldiers Home continues to climb, federal officials are investigating whether residents were denied proper medical care, and the state's top prosecutor is deciding whether to bring legal action. It's horrific, said Edward LaPointe, whose father-in-law lives at the home and had a mild case of the virus. These guys never had a chance. 68 veteran residents who tested positive for the virus have died, officials said Tuesday, and it's not known whether another person who had died had COVID-19. Another 82 residents and 81 employees have tested positive. The home superintendent, who's been placed on administrative leave, has defended his response and accused state officials of falsely claiming they were unaware of the scope of the problem there. The superintendent, Bennett Walsh, said earlier this month state officials knew that the home was in crisis mode when it came to staffing shortages and were notified early on and often about the contagion at the facility. Staffing problems that plagued the home for years contributed to the virus spreading like wildfire, said Joan Miller, a nurse at the home. Because staffing was so tight, workers from one unit were constantly moving to other units to help out and bringing their germs with them, she said. At one point, a unit was shut down because there wasn't enough staff to operate it, and those veterans were moved into close quarters in other parts of the building, she said. Veterans were on top of each other, she said. We didn't know who was positive and who was negative, and then they grouped people together, and that really exacerbated it even more, said Miller, who spoke through a mask during a break from her job at the facility. That's when it really blew up, she said. The situation is now somewhat contained because there's so few veterans living there, Miller said. There were nearly 230 residents living there at the home in late March and only 100 remained on Monday, the Boston Globe reported. The death toll of the home appears to be the largest at a long-term care facility in the United States, experts say. I would like to share with you at this time from a educated Facebook group page. Renee states, I can't speak for this facility, but my sister is an OT that floats between a couple of nursing homes. They were so nonchalant about protecting the residents, they didn't require or even provide masks till at least 3 weeks into our state shelter-in-place order. And only after a nurse that worked there tested positive. Of course, by that time it was too late. Several residents, therapists, and the Don became infected. So infuriating. And then we have another reply from Lynn. These types of facilities are a perfect setup for an outbreak. The residents are usually elderly, weakened, sick, disabled, or have a combination of comorbid conditions. They are in close quarters. They can't socially distance, especially in the facilities where they do not have private rooms. They have little resistance, and once the virus gets into the facility, it runs rampant. They usually have minimal staff, and when staff gets sick, there are not enough caregivers for all the residents. This is what happened to a facility in my area. They had no private rooms, so rooms had 3 people. It is terribly and so sad. Here's another reply from Gabrielle. The ICUs are full of nursing home residents. Unfortunately, there is little that is done to mandate quality of care of our most fragile. There can be one nurse and two aides expected to care for 30 plus residents on Earth. Can all needs ever be met on a good day, she states. Never mind during a pandemic. When our elders are kept out of the community with poor patient care ratios, the outcome will be tragic. I am saddened by this incredible loss. Something has to change in the way we honor our elders and sick. Another reply from Jane. Oh no, why are the greatest of our generation that defended this country not protected as they did us? This is statewide. The most infirm, due to their age, are not protected. For these cases to be discovered now, after months of data, is totally unacceptable. The VA system and government run is a joke. I am an ICU RN and staunch supporter of our veterans. 30 days ago from today, on March 29th, this pandemic silenced and shadowed National Vietnam War Day. At this time, I would like to read the proclamation from the United States of America of the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War to honor these veterans. As we observe the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, we reflect with solemn reverence upon the valor of a generation that served with honor. We pay tribute to the more than 3 million servicemen and women who left their families to serve bravely, a world away from everything they knew and everyone they loved. From the Ai Drang to the Khe San, from the Hue to the Saigon, and countless villages in between, they pushed through jungles and rice paddies, heat and monsoon, fighting heroically to protect the ideals we hold dear as Americans. Through more than a decade of combat, over air, land, and sea, these proud Americans upheld the highest traditions of our armed forces. As a grateful nation, we honor more than 58,000 patriots, their names etched in black granite, who sacrificed all they had and all they would ever know. We draw inspiration from the heroes who suffered unspeakably as prisoners of war, yet who returned home with their heads held high. We pledge to keep faith with those who were wounded and still carry the scars of war, seen and unseen. With more than 1,600 of our service members still among the missing, we pledge as a nation to do everything in our power to bring these patriots home. In the reflection of the wall, we see the military family members and veterans who carry a pain that may never fade. May they find peace in knowing their loved ones endure, not only in medals and memories, but in the hearts of all Americans who are forever grateful for their service, valor, and sacrifice.
58,282 American patriots. Here we feel that sacrifice. Here we see these American story. Our founders, in their genius, gave us a task. They set out to make a more perfect union. So it calls to every generation to carry on that work, to keep moving forward, to overcome the sometimes painful past, one of the most painful chapters in our history was Vietnam. Most particularly how we treated our troops who served there. You're often blamed for a war you didn't start. You should have been commended for serving your country. You're valid. When you came home, I know many of you put your medals away. Left them in the drawer, box in the closet. What this 50th anniversary is all about. Another opportunity to say to our Vietnam veterans what we should have been saying from the beginning. You did your job. You served with honor. You made us proud. Here today, it must be said, you have earned your place among the greatest generations. This time I would ask all our Vietnam veterans, those of you who can stand, please stand, as we say those simple words which always greet our troops when they come home from here on out. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. service members served during the lifespan of the Vietnam War. And then during that time frame, it was really tough in our nation, a tough time in our nation, when we didn't always take the right approach and invest in telling them thank you. So now I think it's probably even more important now than ever, really, to take the time to just say thank you and to let them know that their sacrifices did not go, unknown or unrecognized.
Provides a unique opportunity to provide a long overdue recognition and help bring, I believe, healing to the veteran, their family, and to our country.
They serve proud, and I think we all now, as a team should pay some type of respect.
For the Vietnam veteran, many of them, this was the most significant event of their life.
This is probably one of the proudest events of a rally nature that we can go in a ceremony, because not only will we welcome as Vietnam veterans and we're going to be told welcome home, but a commanding general of the Screaming Eagles is going to do it. And that's a point of pride right there.
At this time, will you please bow your head for the benediction? We pray for people in the U.S. and around the world impacted by coronavirus. We pray for comfort for those who have lost loved ones and for those who have been quarantined and are feeling alone. We pray for healing for those who are sick. We pray for safety, strength, and compassion for medical workers who may be overwhelmed caring for those who are battling various illnesses and workers who are exposed to greater risk. We pray that our public officials act with passion and wisdom as they work to contain the virus. We pray for those without access to health care and for those who don't know how they will make it if they get sick and go to work. We pray that your peace will guard our hearts and minds so that we are not overcome by anxiety and fear. God, inspiring us in ways to show your love to one another and to ourselves. Guide our hearts and our actions to greater care, kindness, and generosity in the midst of these fears and uncertainties. Amen.